Thank you. This is Randy Ojeda, one of the most important and excellent and unique entertainment law attorney that we have here in Tampa, specialized in intellectual property. Thank you again for your time, and we are basically talking back and forth to do this many times, many events. Thank you, Randy, for having me here. And go ahead, man. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, no, thank you for the kind introduction. I don't feel like an important person, but I guess, if you're saying it, I believe it now.
Well,
So,
it's-
yeah.
well,
Um
not too much people have the courage to go to law in the middle of the pandemic. Can you tell the people
yeah.
how you start, how your passion to be an attorney?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, I had kind of a roundabout way of getting to this place where I am now. And I actually started out in law school. So I was in law school, and while I was in law school, I started managing a rapper, which
Wow,
isn't something all law students do. But I met this young rapper who had really good talent, and um, his needs felt like I felt like that was kind of my expertise, and my skill set worked really well with what he needed, to further his career. So I started working with him. Eventually built up my own management company. Started managing. At its peak, we had like 12 acts that we were managing.
wow,
Started doing that for a while. And then when I graduated law school, I just decided I'm just going to keep the management business. Like, I'm not going to be a lawyer because things were going so well, things were moving. I was
wow.
happy where I was. Um, Eventually, kept doing the management thing, started doing A&R for Symphonic Distribution, which I believe is how we met back in the day. So I was doing A&R for them, as well as managing. And then the pandemic happened, and suddenly I went from being very, very busy to not busy at all, which is, what happened to most people in the pandemic, I think. So I figured if I was ever going to change gears, change course, and pivot, that was the time to do it because I had the time on my hands. So, um, I had met so many attorneys throughout my career as a manager and as an A&R person, and you know, I saw what they were doing, and there are some great entertainment attorneys out there. I'm not trying to bash everybody, but at the same time, there were so many people that weren't looking out for the artist's best interests, and people that weren't dedicated to independent music. They were, working with the Taylor Swifts and the Drakes of the world, but that small mid-level, up and coming artist was not getting served by the legal community. So I took the bar exam, started my law firm as soon as I
Wow.
passed,
Wow.
and I haven't looked back.
Wow, man. Thank you so much. Wow, it's an amazing story because it take it take a lot to decide to fight for the right for the rights that people have. And I get involved in this really interesting, I think I mentioned to you I have a guy that lives 3 houses in Pasadena. His name is Eric Sherman. He become one of the expert witness, one of the top number one expert witness on entertainment industry, and he have
Mm,
the luxury to have that Vincent Sherman that he worked in the golden age of Hollywood.
yeah,
So he grew up working with Francis Ford Coppola, Orson
yeah.
Welles. In fact, he's in the documentary of the Orson Welles. He
Oh
act
wow.
in the film. So he opened the Academy Film in Pasadena Art Center. He's a student there. Michael Bay, Tarkin, all these guys that the guys that make Transformer, Wonder
Yeah.
Woman, all these guys. And his passion was developing ethics in the entertainment industry. And he introduced me to the intellectual property, the idea, the protection of the idea. And recently, well, many years ago, I am involved in the human rights nonprofit, a lady called Sarai Massa. She's a survival of three assassination attack in a communist country, Venezuela. And he dedicate in Miami, in the Doyle, to educate people about human rights. And one of the segments that that I went had the opportunity to talk in front of the city council, the Douglas city mayor, about intellectual property. In fact, I want you go with me again this year or the next year. I think we have an event.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
and I see all these people. I see a woman. I hear a woman extraordinary. It's a movie. It's a Middle Eastern Palestinian attorney that she escaped her culture because she no agree what happened in there, and she almost died. She ended up being homeless. She lost entire his family, his kids, and she's fighting for human rights and the rights of the woman. And you hear what she went through. Her name is Maya Bashir, if I pronounce well her
Mhm.
name. But I realized how much, how big is your idea to keep in the food, that you don't succumb, you don't die. You went through all that hell, that you are now in the United States, basically showing a path to women, to everybody, that your idea, your desire, your intellectual property, your imagination to willing to improve is still intact. And I realized, oh my God, this is something to do intellectual property, human rights,
Yeah.
everything. People, this war is become an idea. So whatever is we touch, whatever we leave behind an idea. The question, that's right. That's the fact that I called the interview. How you protect your idea, how you become really empower your idea, so nobody can, stall it.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, I would say that ideas are like the engines of progress, right? So
Yeah.
ideas are that raw creativity, and protecting them is what turns an idea into legacies, into actual progress and moving forward in as a culture, and that's everything from music and culture and arts to patents and processes and systems and building for the future. So your question was, how do you protect,
Yeah.
these ideas? So, um, there's basically three ways that we have at law to protect ideas. That's copyright, trademark, and patents.
Hmm.
So with copyrights are songs. You can copyright songs, films, writings, poems, that sort of thing. Trademarks protect brands, names, logos, and then patents protect inventions.
Hmm.
So those are basically the three ways that you can do it. And I would say that intellectual property is like insurance for creativity. It basically keeps others from taking your idea and repackaging it as their own. So those are the main protections that we have and the main way to handle it.
And it's interesting that you mentioned that, because in the business area, in the business world, I can see the business owners having a huge negative impact, because in today marketing, the market is online. You have AI,
Yeah.
you have the necessity to publish organically more than ever to your product. So you have the case that the company that they hire to do the marketing, somebody buy the domain in South America, and somebody have the hosting services and one Commonwealth hosting
Hmm.
services. And now I don't know if you and people can hear me, the authentication requirements to log into stuff, to go to your own account is insane. So like
Yeah.
you have to. I remember Mailchimp back in the time. You put an email and you send thousands of email. No, they need to verify your domain. You need to go inside your personal account, whatever you have that hosting, and verify. So what I try to say that in marketing, domains, hosting strategies, and I see contracts company, the
Hmm.
strategies, how you strategize the marketing, how to strategize the business, the full programmation of how they're gonna go, the campaign, everything, the management from top and the bottom on the company is intellectual property. They have value, bring commercial value, and
Right.
that's basically marketed assets of a company.
Right.
So and you see how much money they lost because the guy don't want to basically release the information that you need. And they are really well paid agencies that they overseas contract on South America, but they
Hmm.
don't know that that's legal. It's like a you go to a gas station, pay for gas, and nobody give you gas. Come on, you know. So
Yeah.
you domains, you brand, you hosting, you website is marketing asset, because in the moment that you start closing deal, you get 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 views, follower. The company doesn't cost the same when you start an LLC. So
Right.
that becomes something as a commercial asset. I don't know if you agree with that, but this is something that has to be
Yeah.
covered. Nobody talk about that, basically.
Yeah, no, and well, I think you see it covered a lot in like employment agreements. You see that companies are very protective of their intellectual properties and the uh, the things that employees create while they're employed. So if you're an employee who's making an advertisement for a company, it's going to be very explicit in your employment agreement that whatever you create, that asset is going to be the company's property and not your
Exactly.
property. And
Exactly.
that's definitely, if you're in any kind of creative field, that's definitely something to look at if you're employed by a bigger corporation that's asking you to create things for them. You
And,
know.
and it's interesting, the middle companies doesn't have that knowledge. I think this is something really value that we can talk about, because obviously Walt Disney, they have that
Right.
in many statutes, in many ways implicit in the contract, but it's not like the creativity on employees doesn't take accountable, but
Right.
that's the reason why your strategy, and then also some disclosure on the information, because it's confidential.
Yeah.
So one of the service that we do in my company, Aknanda Production, and prepare all these marketing assets, because it's a nightmare. It become like you call the guy, and I don't know, South America, and you feel like you're asking for her girlfriend. Give me the
Yeah.
domain now. Like it's just it's like a drug dealer.
Right, right. Yeah.
So I prepare like a binder, digital and physical, all the passwords, all the same routine, how the posting can go, the strategy, the
Mhm.
concept. So because that have amazing value in terms of how company goes, and I think we have to mention that, because owners have lost a lot of money paying for recovery. But Google is business becomes so strictly,
Mhm.
so difficult to have a page, and you need to be listed in Google no matter what.
Absolutely. Yeah,
And
yeah.
this is something really interesting that I want to take the opportunity, Randy, to talk about more extensively, and create like awareness course or something, and to let people know and teach people how, especially business owner, because it's more hard when the business owner doesn't want to understand, because he's loaded to have to make the financial planning and have
Right.
to organize all the stuff. So, but they like you speak in Russian to him, and somebody speaks Chinese, and you say yes, but they doesn't know. And it's interesting, if they have that rudiments, basically the benefit that will increase to economy and drive businesses to succeed is tremendously. I don't know if you have the same opinion, but
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, I think it's really hard being a small business owner, and there's so many different aspects of owning a business that you have to think about. And I think often intellectual property and these kinds of concepts are one of the last things you think about because you're worried about keeping the lights on, paying your employees, paying for insurance and things like that. You're not as worried about, you know, what are my intellectual assets going to be, and I think that is something that requires more awareness.
yeah, definitely we can help many business owners on that. And talking about another subject that I wanna bring and surface, I understand now that based on our friend, Symphony, our CEO Jorge,
Yeah,
uh,
shout out to Jorge.
yeah, Jorge and Janet, we love you. Symphony Music Distribution, are the best.
Yeah.
He mentioned that it got approved these acts of taxes, HITS. It's
Hmm.
basically, and I know that from Eric Sherman School, that you have so much tax exemptions on talking about films and producing TV, and
Right.
but that benefit on write up everything that you line up is not the same for the music industry. Now it is. So how you
Yeah.
can elaborate more about that?
Yeah. Yeah. On the Hits Act.
Yeah.
So yeah, like as you said, like there's it's there's a lot of tax breaks and a lot of incentives that go into movies and commercials and productions like that, but that wasn't the same for songwriters and producers and independent artists. So the Hits Act, which is the Help Independent Tracks Succeed Act, I believe,
Mhm.
it basically amends the tax code to allow independent artists, songwriters, producers, and labels to fully expense recording production costs for um, their sound recordings in the year. So um, rather than having to pay on, um, or rather than having to not fully expense and having to pay fully, this allows independent artists, songwriters, producers, and labels to fully expense their recording production costs for U.S. based sound recording. So there's a cap of $150,000 per year that independent artists can write off essentially, which for most artists is going to be pretty much their entire recording budget, right? So this basically gives some tax incentives to creators, because before creators used to have to, this is like getting into the weeds on this, but creators used to have to spread out the deductions over several years, whereas now there's a yearly cap, so they can do it, um, every year, and have the same tax treatment as films, television, theater productions, etc.
Wow.
So this is huge. Like it's a massive win for the industry, and I mean the act's supported by every organization from the Recording Academy to A2IM to ASCAP and BMI. Like everybody wanted this to pass because it just is going to lead to better deductions for creators, and that's what I think everybody wants. Um, so so yeah, it frees up some funds, making it easier for artists to kind of reinvest money into their music right away rather than having to sort through a much more difficult tax code in order to get not even the same protections that they would get now. So it's a big win for the music community for sure.
Wow. So I think the accounting people and CPA will be really happy.
I would say so. Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah,
definitely would say
really
so.
happy. It remind me too that now the way I start, well, because I have more mainly from Mr. Eddie Sherman, the instruction of films, but I prepare like a spreadsheet where even that people donate, you invest, I would call it invest, the work like a musician or producer, and you give the given then production points or whatever exchange and the cake. You have in that spreadsheet the cost of what is the real value of the whatever people you have. You can have 20 people, and
Hmm.
start the sequence start when you start pre-producing the song and pre-producing the film project TV, and all over when you go to mastering and all over. That will be really helpful, and I will give that to you, so you give it to your clients as a
Sure.
gift. And it's something that I learned, and I mentioned before, I guess, something I learned from Eric is a sheet that I did. Is called production cues. What
Yeah.
said the intellectual property of your idea, how you wanna make this uh, film project or music project, how's the people invite, how you wanna, what is the concept, what is gonna be all the elements to develop in a confidential matters, because it's really interesting. I don't know if it's the same, and you clear that point. And film is really delicate. Like you're gonna show the scripts to somebody and hey, give me your opinion, because you are
Hmm.
attached to a major law liability. Is
Right.
it something happened with the script, started making money, you are entitled to pay that person that give you your opinion. I think music, in terms to even that you do a cover and you purchase licensing, or you do your own song, you have to keep it really confidential. and inner circle, because anything that, and it's really common, hey, what you think about this, hey, I send you that song,
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
completely of rudiment, unprofessional, because you are basically entitled to a major break, your own rights. I don't know, what is your opinion?
Yeah, no, that's why it's so important to put things in writing. You
Yeah.
know, it's especially important for music, and um, I always recommend to artists that they use split sheets in the studio so that
Mhm.
they, before you leave that session, you need to know what everybody's percentage is going to be because it's crazy the amount of people that come forward once you have a hit song that say like, "Oh, I added, I told you to add that snare drum right there, or I told you to do this, or I mentioned that, or whatever. I was in the studio while you were doing it, so I had an influence on it." People make the craziest arguments to argue that they, have a percentage stake in a song. Um, split sheets are super, super important. Like, as an example, I had a client who produced a song. I can't say which song it is because
Obviously.
it became massively popular. Um,
Obviously.
like it became a viral hit, big thing on TikTok. Okay. Um, and they never got split sheets. And now there's like three or four other producers who are coming forward claiming that they um, had a hand in the song and that they're owed
Wow.
royalties.
Jesus.
And the song's been out for, let me look. Song's been out since February. It's got almost 48 million streams just on Spotify alone
Wow.
right now, and that's going up every day. I'm telling you, this is a massive song. Like if I said the song, you would probably know what I'm talking about,
Wow.
but massive song, and we're the lawyers now are still arguing and sorting out the percentages for everybody and
Yeah.
how much people are going. And I mean, this is a a big
Yeah.
hit song that, involves a lot of stakeholders. And now, all these people are coming forward saying they did this, they sampled this, they created this sample, and then that was
Wow.
reused. And it's like,
And it gets translated in 20 and 5 in language. And
yeah, yeah. And it's and
well,
it's really it's to the point where, I don't know. I mean, it might end up in litigation because
yeah,
people are,
I think so.
nobody's agreeing on it, and it's a big song. So, um, that's the kind of situation where just having a split sheet in the studio, some kind of written document that says this percentage of this percentage of that person, that would have that would have freed up so many issues for the
Eh,
for those people.
Definitely. And I want to send you this also for your clients, because this helping not only add the split sheet, but it help you to line up your idea back again, intellectual property, how you want to set up, because it's a lot of misconception about producing. I mean, like I have a friend, Roland Corbawi. He don't play any instrument in his
Hmm.
life, but he have the ability to sit down the musician of Luis Miguel
Yeah,
and make a song in his mind, and he got 3 Grammys. And on top of that, he had one of the top publishing company contract in the history of the music Latin.
yeah,
So you don't need to be a musician, but you need to help protect and line up your ideas so you are organized. And I think that that template of production cues is really helpful, because you can apply it to everything. I will send it to you,
yeah,
and avoid one of the things. I don't know if you have these cases. I have cases that I will put into you into your roster clients, but you can tell that the people already have, I don't know how many numbers of sub publishing company caching a song that have millions of reproduction and all over the country,
right,
and is really seems really smart, but you can tell there's a crime,
yeah,
because you as an artist in whatever country, you make a song, and that song is being on TV and a major, I'm not going to say the big TV channel, TV network, but huge, and they got reproduced in many language. You don't setting that in a paycheck of $55,000, millions of dollars that is involved. That and it's something that artists need to understand, that they are unethical people, that they licensing,
yeah,
synchronization. It had the trick. It had the trick,
yeah,
and you have to be really sure that people doesn't make publishing companies under you, that you are notified. That's
Yeah.
why they need Randy.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, another example, like I'm dealing with a situation now with an artist who's from Africa, and one of the bigger artists in Africa right now, millions of streams, like doing really well, played on all the radio stations over there and that kind of thing. So doing really well, but it was his manager who set up, or his manager at the time set up his distribution and his publishing and everything and routed it all to him as opposed to the artist directly. So what happened now is now that manager's not working with this artist anymore, but he still has access to everything. He still has access to all the accounts, and he can't even get a hold of his music because it's all in the manager's name. So now it's a big situation where we need to, transfer documents and all these things to get it put
Wow.
back in his name, and
Oh,
that's just one of those things where you think your manager has the best interests in heart. You'd hope that they would, but and maybe he did. Maybe he didn't mean to do this, but he just did it the way that he thought was simplest, and then now the artist is paying for it and doesn't have access to their own songs.
wow. And
So
how about
yeah,
this? I remember Eric. Well, he left many years ago, unfortunately. But I remember since the time he left, and he had many changes in governments and entertainment law. He said that I have to be really careful of asking for investment because
mm,
the ethical way to ask for people invest money or something is through a Federation Exchange Commission, FEC,
right,
and the fact that I don't have the that license to ask for money and investment to secure that the purpose of this federal entity is monitor investors and help investors. I remember
yeah,
one guy that got investment in something and the investor go crazy, and thanks that he have that on place, he got his money and his product back.
great.
So and do you have something to say about it? Is still that the case that you have to be really careful in terms to presenting investor, because everybody talk about the point is not the same the real estate, and either
Right.
that you have to have a licensing to be a broker to talk about money. So what do you insight on that particular arena?
Yeah, no, I think with music in particular, it's always it's always difficult bringing on an investor, because in essence, that's kind of what labels are in some way. But if you're just bringing in an outside investor, first off, I don't think that ever works well because the thing about music is you can have all the money in the world, you can have the highest budget ever, but you can't make something cool. You
Yeah,
can't pay to have something be popular. Like you can throw it at people with all the marketing dollars that you have, and it's if it's not good, if it's not good music that people connect and resonate with, it's still not going to go anywhere.
yeah,
So I think just taking on investors is never necessarily the best idea, but even still, you know anytime an investor invests in something, there's some kind of collateral consideration, right? So you're investing in a property, you're going to own part of that property until you get your investment back. It's the same way with music, if,
yeah,
or any intellectual property. Like you're going to own a piece of that movie, that TV show, that song, whatever, until you get your money back. And that's one of the things that I don't think musicians always think about too, because they could be, you know, giving up their rights forever if it never, if that money doesn't come back, or who knows what rights you're giving up permanently. You know.
yeah. In film is a major legal liability. You have to, you have to set aside, pay investors with all the income coming, and then
Yeah.
when you have paid in production, then you start paying yourself. It's really interesting. But I remember clearly, be careful with investing, saying that investor, because you have to have you can put yourself in a major legal liability until you have the clearance of the Federation Check Commission,
Right.
and that tied to something that I want to ask you. And today with the AI, the plethora of social media, what you think is the future for a platform, a distribution platform for artists. Because you see, even the music distribution platforms start going to films, and it's really interesting
Yeah.
because if they can handle music, they can handle films in 360, 380,
Right, right, right.
and you have more profit in terms to the royalty. So what is the future that you see now in platform for an artist, independent artist, that they want to put the music on, but they, so hard. You have a matrix for Spotify, and you have a audience that listen to Spotify in a specific country. You have Pandora, another one. You have YouTube, another one. You
Yeah.
have Deezer. Each platform that you music as an artist or film as an artist, producer or whatever, it is the independent control, independent war universe, different than another one. How you manage that? So what is the future? What you recommend? What is your idea on that?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's tough because yeah, you have to be everywhere now. It's not like before where the focus was just getting into stores, like physical stores and selling your CD at the store. Like, now, like you said, there's so many different platforms where music is found and where art is found that you have to be everywhere, but at the same time, if you're I think it's also going to become more fragmented too, where people, I know artists who have a massive following on Spotify, but don't get any listens on any other platform.
Wow.
So, why are you, rather than trying to get people on YouTube and Apple Music to follow you, just focus on that Spotify audience, and that's your audience. And that's going to be, separate from other artists that are just growing on YouTube or just growing on TikTok or wherever it is. And I think, you know, audiences, the music has to be everywhere, right? But the audiences just can't be everywhere. It's you unless you're a major label and you have tons of budget and everything, you're not going to be able to reach everybody at all the places. So you need
Yeah.
to really, I think the future is going to be picking where that audience is, and maybe that'll be in more like artist owned storefronts. I was talking to an artist yesterday who built out a web page for herself that, you can go on, pay what you want for her music and download it. You get bonuses and all sorts of, special features and that kind of thing, but it's all direct through her own website as opposed to being on Bandcamp or something like that. So I think that's going to become a more popular thing where artists are going to try to control the storefront, control,
Wow.
their platform and sell it directly. I think um, I just think that's maybe the most economical way for artists to do it, especially if you have the audience already. You know.
Wow. I can imagine that it's just like they have their own platform, so that they can basically show the music to people. That's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah, no, and it's a lot easier these days to do that and to have your own website. It's just about how can you bring traffic to it and how can you raise awareness of your specific platform. But I think artists are starting to realize more that, Spotify, Apple, all these different platforms, while they're great for getting your name out there and getting, onto playlists and associating with other artists and that sort of thing, obviously they're not the money makers that independent artists need. So, if you can convert people from a casual Spotify, Apple Music listener and turn them into a fan that buys a product from you, you're going to make so much more money per fan than you will just, pushing
Wow.
your streaming numbers,
Obviously,
you know.
but
Yeah.
you have this dilemma that as a consecrated musician or performing artist, you
Mhm.
need to have some of your music. I guess the artist has to bring a strategy like I have a popular music or something specific done for Spotify or this platform, and something exclusive done for all these platforms.
Right, right, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And
Because
that makes it even more difficult for the artist. It's more stuff you have to create, you
yeah,
know.
because I don't listen radio FM like I waste years because it's so boring, and I think even companies are looking for really talented musicians that they can attach the brand
Yeah.
to monetize the brand influencers. And if I have a big product to sell in Amazon, I will find someone musician wise, Spain, Africa, I don't know, that I have different sound that because the music industry in the US, the commercial, and I hate to say, but you cannot compare that with Canada. There's
Right.
more culture in Canada, in UK or even other countries, but it's the
Yeah.
same. The same. You listen something different, but it's still, in my taste, more developing.
Yeah.
And I think the distribution companies, they need to focus on customer service, because I don't
Oh,
know if you
well,
agree,
yeah.
because it's overwhelming, and one of the things that I admire about Symphonic, and Jorge and Janet and entire executive team, Greg and all these guys, the amount of hours that they put, the research that they put to keep artists on news on top, on the path, what is happening in the industry. That's people need to understand that costs thousands of dollars of research. Not
Mhm.
only do the research, analyze it, put it in a way that's understandable, the blogging and all the distribution on social media is, I don't think I don't see a most presentable, most amazing presentation that they done, and to let people know about the industry. And this is huge.
Yeah.
But we need to have customer service, and this is a challenge because everything is related now to an email and probably AI, and I want to go over that. But the
Yeah.
artists need some a path that they self-educate themselves, they have control, because the question how much money coming to you exactly in the streaming services is still pending the exactly answer, how much
Yeah.
money can it
Well, it
pay.
varies. It varies.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
very. So the next question is, and the final, because I don't want to take your time, what do you think AI, revolution of AI, is taking over intellectual property in general, in our music, in our film? Because I see now AI platform, they can do films with AI character that's so realistic
Yeah.
that is quite scary. Let me tell you, So, what is your opinion on it as an attorney?
Yeah, no, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts on AI, right? I knew this was going to be asked because this is this, a hot button issue right now for sure.
Yeah.
And AI is just raising new questions, right, about intellectual property and what intellectual property is. And the biggest thing when it comes to intellectual property is authorship, right? So that's who created the intellectual property, who is the author, right? And AI kind of blurs that line because is it the AI? Are they the author? Is it the learning model that the AI used to create the artwork? Is that the person that is that is I don't even know how you quantify ownership for that, but is it the person that typed in, please create this for me? Is it the prompter? Is it the machine? Is it the algorithm? Like, who is actually the author of the AI created work? And that's the question that, um, you know, the government and, various governments around the world are trying to figure out now. Um, and that also is kind of what worries me about kind of where we're going with AI is people aren't stopping to really define and answer those questions, and the AI is evolving faster than the law can keep up. So the latest ruling from the U.S. Copyright Office is that simply that authorship and the ability to protect intellectual property is dependent on human authorship. So a human needs to actually create whatever it is that's being protected. Okay. So how that relates with AI is that, they've said in the latest ruling that simply prompting the AI is not enough human involvement to be considered copyrightable. So if you're a creator and you're using AI to create whatever it is that you're creating, you may not actually own the thing that you're creating. And I think a really good example of this is artists that use AI generated album artwork. I think that's the easiest example is like you
Mhm.
you go to AI, you say I want, an album artwork that looks like this, looks like that, and then the AI spits it out for you. That you don't own that.
Yeah,
That's owned by the AI. That's not,
exactly.
or somebody. I'm not, that's the question is we're not sure who owns that. But I've had situations where band use AI art, and then that uh that album or single gets picked up by a label, and the label doesn't want to use that artwork because it's not original, it's AI created, so then you have to redo the cover art, blah blah. Same thing about hiring people. This is where it gets scary, right? So you hire somebody to
Wow.
make artwork for you, right? And then they use AI, maybe without you even knowing,
Yeah.
that then you have something that's not necessarily copyrightable
Yeah.
because of its AI usage. So
Yeah.
we need to start seeing, this is super important. We need to start seeing more AI clauses in contracts that specifically say, just the same way, like now, if you're a producer and you produce something, um you have to formally state that you didn't use any samples, right? Or uncleared samples. You didn't use
Mhm.
any copyrighted work. You also need to say now, I didn't use artificial intelligence or AI tools, because that's going to be the next thing where rights are going to be very murky, very unclear for a lot of created work because of the use of AI and the evolving nature of what is considered copyrightable versus not copyrightable when it comes to artificial intelligence. So
Wow. It's tremendous,
there's a
really.
lot going on in this space
It's a
right
lot going
now.
on.
Yeah,
And you mentioned something really interesting. My clients, I just suggesting don't go to, I use Canva, and it's scary because Canva too use AI, and it doesn't.
sure.
I don't want to say that it's bad because it help in production level,
Yeah,
But I recommend my clients don't go to these AI things to do logos. Hire a designer because you
right.
have to have the rights. You have to have a document where the designer or the photographer give you the rights back,
Yes.
that is human done. But my brother is one of the biggest designer. He do it with hand because in the straight and can do digital, but you have the entire process done. That's not going to be similar or duplicate, but some these websites or whatever service tools or platform application.
Sure.
Because if you want to value your company from hundreds of millions or thousands, you have to have a designer give me a paper, Association of Right, I think is the name,
Hmm.
correct?
Yeah.
Of the logo of the entire, because that go in the company asset, the logo, the photography, and everything. And this is something that is actually connect with content creation, because now content creation is the same as thinking as a TV producer.
Yeah.
So you have to think an audience, you have to create a content, and people watching more fun content, social media content, that subscription TV. Well, cable, nobody. I don't make
Yeah.
a survey who pay cable. Probably
Right.
the FSC five they pay. But you know, content creation and the involvement of AI, and the necessity of the people grab attention, they are becoming TV. And you have to think as a TV producer that actually I want to have another event with one of the, we can talk about that, one of the biggest TV producers that I know, Hernan Pambuyan, who took American Idol to all South America. He worked in LA and he do Apple TV and sport anchor. But he
Cool.
went to Emmys and he have a big update on what is happening. So we need to talk about that because again, the purpose of these conversations protect ideas because
Yeah.
we have you here in Tampa. Thank God we have the accessibility to talk to you. The your time and it's so valuable, but Tampa is growing. We need an intellectual property attorney, and I love to work with you. And thank you again to having you here. And
Of
this is
course.
all this is all subject that I suffer because I see the lacking of knowledge of business owners. We live in an era of multimedia. We have to involve messages with TV, films, TV. We need to, people want to talk about value content that educate our child or our grow young people. So it's not about who have the 10x, the guy that I am a 10x because I have a solar company and I made
Mm.
40,000, have 5, 10 sellers, just intellectual property. So thank you again, man, for your time.
No, thank you, Ray. No, I appreciate it.
And I wanna I love to work with you, and I want to team up to help the business owners on Tampa and Florida and across the Florida, whatever, across the U.S. I want to invite you formally to this prestige nonprofit organization that talk about awareness of human rights. I want to be involved because we need a voice like you. So I don't know. I love to be probably my one of my frustrations become an attorney to,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, yeah.
you
Don't
have
go
in
to
your
law school.
brain,
You don't. Yeah.
so we need to
Yeah, yeah.
use you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm a big supporter of human rights in general, and that's one of the things that I think is human rights across the board. I think are really under attack right now, in this country especially, but obviously all over the world. And protecting art, protecting ideas is part of human rights. So I think it's just as important that that needs to be protected as well. So
Yeah. And we
um,
have to take a
yeah,
part of, like I know this interview is going to help many business owners. That's why it's going to be in a major press release, because it's going to help business owners to understand and adjust the reality on what need to do to improve the service and let people know. So
yeah.
thank you again for your time. We're going to see each other soon.
I hope so.
And yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And thank you, man. Thank you for your time.
No, thank you so much for having me. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.